I think we're going to start talking about the score, and then Benj is going to come out and talk about the songs. But although actually the songs came before the score, right?
Sort of. I mean, you with the musical, you have to figure out the songs before the movie's shot, whereas the score, like any movie, is something that's normally figured out in post-production. You're watching the picture and you're writing music to the scenes. And this, it was an unusual process because I was working with Damien for years before we met Benj Pasek and Justin Paul, the lyricists. So I'd been developing a lot of themes and a lot of melodies. Some of those we turned into songs and then gave to them to write the lyrics. Other themes we sort of knew early on before the movie was ever shot that those would end up in the score. So just a lot of conversations between me and Damien. Where do we put these melodies? How do we use them? And some ended up being used for both, in songs and then used as part of these sequences, like that fantasy sequence towards the end.
So now you two knew each other from college days, right?
Yeah, we were roommates in college.
Yeah. Although I think you lived in Montecito before college.
Yeah, from 88 to 98, lived here. And this is where I started taking piano lessons and started composing, yeah.
Well, okay, so when you started writing the songs, are there 6 songs in the film?
I think 5 songs, and City of Stars happens twice.
Okay,
I think so.
All right, but now was it planned out? It's like let's start out with 15 and go from there, or let's start out with 2 songs and build up from there.
No, there were always 5 or 6 songs in the movie. There was one that got cut that was in the script, but Damien's script always had the indications of where the songs would go and how they'd be used, what they would do narratively, what they would do emotionally, like what the storytelling would be behind them. So his script would say, here, Mia has this audition that means everything to her. She's quit acting. She's been convinced to come back for one final audition, and it was a description of the scene and how she would slip into song and what the song would what some of those themes would be. So the screenplay indicated a song would go there, and likewise the other areas. The script started with, there's a big musical number on a freeway and some indications of what that should feel like and what that should be about. But it was in the script, really, as well as some of the instrumental stuff, like some of the stuff that's in the score was also in the script, which I think is unusual for a screenwriter to write, exactly where score would go in some instances, like the big planetarium sequence where they float up into the stars. That was all written. That was all part of the screenplay, but it ended up becoming a big score piece in the movie.
Yeah, because normally with scores, it's done, in post-production. But this score was always part of the process, you're saying?
Yeah, well, the score, if you're just talking about the dramatic underscore, a lot of that is post-production. A lot of that is me watching the picture and scoring. But like I said, because I'd been working on these melodies and themes for so long, Damien and I started sort of earmarking some and saying, well, this can go there and that can go there, and thinking about where they would go. Also, those big sequences like the planetarium and the fantasy sequence at the end, those were things that I had been piano demoing and then orchestrating and actually mocking up before the movie was shot. I had to then reconfigure everything to picture later as Damien and Tom Cross, the picture editor, sort of reshaped things. It was also a very long, just looking at the score itself, is a very long process for me in post-production, because most movies, they're edited to temp music, meaning all the early cuts, they're just putting in cues from other film scores or classical music just to sort of help the editing process, and the composer doesn't come in until later, until the cut is almost done or until the picture's locked. But we didn't feel like temp music could work in this movie because it all sort of had to have the same flavor to it. The score and the songs all had to sort of work together. So I scored for about 8 months from the beginning of the editorial process. I had an office next to the editing room and I was just there all day. So as Tom would cut scenes, he would give them to me and I would write a score cue and I'd give them back, and then picture would change to the score cue and score cues would change to the pictures. The picture and the score were kind of evolving together, which was it took a lot of time, but it was a very fulfilling process because I felt like, I I felt like I wasn't being boxed in by any temp music, you know, anything that they may have just put in there. The picture and the music could sort of inform each other.
Yeah.